What is up, you guys? So in this Redis tutorial, I'm going to be emphasizing on Redis search functionalities using Python. So we're going to be seeing all the powerful indexing, querying, and full text search functionalities of Redis search provided to us by Redis. And I'm going to be showing you how this could be done on Python. So this tutorial does not include a front-end design. It rather focuses on the back-end functionalities of the beautiful app that you're trying to design and sell. Also, don't forget the Tesla giveaway, which ends on January 31st of 2022. So in about a couple of weeks from today. So to participate, just click the link down in the description section below, and terms and conditions apply. So without further ado, let's get started. And to participate, you visit the link down in the description section below. You enter your name, your email, the company, the phone, the country, and you select a password. And you have to select a paid subscription so that you participate in the Tesla giveaway. So after those steps, there you go. This is how my cloud looks like. This is a database I created previously. In case you want to create a new database, see, I have reached the limit because I didn't sign into a paid plan. But this is what you should do. So after creating your database, here's the information. I chose Redis Search, Redis JSON modules. Right, before we get started, I just want you to make sure of one thing. Open your terminal and make sure you've got nothing running on the port that you're going to be using to run our backend. So we're going to be running it on port, let's say 6379. And as you can see, we've got no application occupying this port. So in case you do, you've got two solutions. Either you use another port, say 6380 or any other port, but it should not exceed 65535, or you would go ahead and kill the port that we just mentioned. So let's say this was 6379. You go ahead and specify the PID right here and kill that process. Okay, so once done, you'd want to go ahead and install Docker. Now this tutorial is not going to cover the different features of Docker. There is plenty of resources here on YouTube, which I find very useful. To install Docker, you go ahead, get started, and right here, in case you're running on a Mac, you click this, Windows, Linux. Right? So after you have it installed, this is what you get. As you can see, I have no containers running for the moment. Now next, what we're going to do is create a repository. Go back to my terminal. I'll cd into desktop. I'll create a repository, call it simply my employee Redis DB. Okay, I'll cd into that, and I'm going to open code right here. As you can see, this is my VS Code open in my employee Redis DB. Next thing I want you to do is create a requirements.txt file, which will contain all the packages that we will be installing. So here's the packages that I'll be using: AIO Redis, Redis OM, Redis, Redis Search, 6, what else? PyLev, packaging, pp3, pydantic, and all these good stuff. Once you've got this, and let's create a Docker compose file, which is .yaml. You can see we've got the Docker icon right here, the whale. So right here, you'd want to specify the version, specify whatever you want. Then the services. So for the services, we'll be using no other than Redis, and you specify your container name. Let's say Redis employee DB querying, because we're going to, I'm calling it querying because I'm going to show you the different features of Redis search along with Redis OM, how you perform all the querying you need. And the image, we're going to be pulling from Redis labs, the Redis search image. Specify edge. Ports, as we said, we will be working on port 6379, but here you can specify a range of available ports. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to limit it to 6379. I like to have control over the ports I'm using. And for deploy, specify the replicas and the restart policy. So the restart policy, we're going to restart Docker when we've got a failing condition. Once that's done, close this file. We're not going to be revisiting those two again. Now open your terminal in the My Employee Redis DB repository, and let's create a virtual environment. So virtual environments, again, like Docker, virtual environments is out of the scope of this tutorial. There's plenty of very useful resources here on YouTube. So if you're really interested in learning more about virtual environments, you can go ahead and check all the useful stuff here on YouTube. But long story short, what virtual environments are, this is the way you create it. And right here we have our virtual environment with the bin and the bash files right here, right? And to activate, you go to venv, I think it's bin, yeah, bin, and then there's this activate right here. So activate, okay. As you can see, venv, I'm currently inside the virtual environment. So right now, any module you install, let's say pip install Redis or pip install SymPy or any other module you can think of, it's going to be installed only in the scope of that virtual environment. So if I go ahead and exit this virtual environment, those packages are lost. They're only contained within the virtual environment. This really helps you keep track of, packages, and you have complete control of the packages you installed for this project, right? So let's say you installed NumPy on your machine and you're not sure whether your project utilizes NumPy or not. Well, if you're running virtual environment, you could easily check all the packages you have. And now is the time to install all the packages. So pip install, and recursively, all the requirements I've got. Give it some time so that it installs. Go have yourself some cup of coffee. Okay, almost there. Good. So now I've got the packages I need within the requirements installed. And now let me go to a second terminal, get Docker up and running. So right now I'm going to call the Docker compose that we just wrote over here. I'm going to call it Docker compose and pass it up. As you can see right now in my containers right here, we've got the container my employee Redis DB that we just created. Okay, good. Now this terminal we're not going to revisit, even though it's super useful, even though it would give us some log messages telling us, you performed this read or write operation, some querying stuff. It updates right here because you're using port 6379. So Docker would figure that out and would update this console accordingly. But I will not be checking this. I will mostly refer to Redis Insight. Talking about Redis Insight, let's go ahead and add a Redis database and let's specify the host. Redis Insight is super useful to, monitor the changes that are going on in a highly real-time manner. That is, once you read or write some entries or you go ahead and search some entries, you can actually view what's going on this beautiful Redis Insight graphical user interface provided to us for free by Redis. So after specifying the host, go ahead and specify the port 6379, the database alias, employee DB, username and password. I'm going to be leaving them empty, and as you can see, there's no asterisk right here. But if you're using Redis Cloud, you should specify those fields so that you can read and write properly from Redis Cloud. Database index, and go ahead and create your database. As you can see right here, my database is currently empty. So right now I'm going to go back to my VS Code. I'll put the terminal that I'll be using right next to my VS Code as such. And right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to prepare a CSV file right here that contains all our entries that we're going to be uploading to Redis database, and after performing query and search operations on those entries. Okay, and here's the data that I've got in CSV format. It's called employee.csv. As you can see, we've got first name. You know what? I don't like to read CSVs in a raw way. I just don't like it. I'll be using this plugin by VS Code. As you can see, we've got the first name, the last name, the salary, the department, and whether I'm an admin or not. Okay, so this is the data we've got. Indeed, realistic databases and realistic employee management databases contain thousands, if even not millions, of entries. But to keep things simple, just for, educational sake, I'm limiting myself to this, just, to have more control of what's going on. So this is my database that I've got. Now we're going to write some code to model what's going on. So if I were to model my employees as classes for Redis OM to understand the schema that I have, we're going to create a class, call it employee, and we're going to pass all the, attributes that we had. So first name is a string, which will be a field with index true. Now field is going to be module within Redis OM to import field, and I'm going to import another very important thing, which is HashModel, because this class is going to live on top of HashModel as such, and so it's going to be inheriting all the methods and properties of HashModel. So first name is done. Let's do the same for last name, which is also a string and which is going to be indexed. What else? We've got a salary, even though a salary could be floating point. Let's say my salary is $54,000.5. For sake of simplicity, I'm just going to limit it to integer. So field index is set to true. Next, I've got the department, which is a string, and I'm going to also set the index part to true. Last but not least, I've got the isAdmin, right, which is a binary field. I agree, it's either an admin or not, but let's say in the future we want to extend it to allow super admin or other functionalities, so I'll just set it to an integer for sake of simplicity and set the index field to true. Now, one other super important note here is that instead of the hash model, you can also use the JSON model right here. So the JSON model, you could have repeated all this and have done something like this. So instead of the class employee, you could have build on top of a JSON model as such. Okay, well, and the advantage of JSON here, which makes use of Redis JSON, is its nested capabilities. That is, each field could have another field and so on. It's a nested thing, unlike the hash model, which is a simple hash. On Redis CLI, that would correspond to an ft create, have your own index as such. You emphasize on JSON instead of on hash, set a certain prefix, the definition of your database, and you pass the schema. For example, I want name, that is text, email, that is text, and active, that is numeric. Pass this, and there you go. And on Redis Insights, this is what you get, for example. Here, for example, I've got 2 records. Those are from my previous Node.js tutorial. This is how this should look like. You've got a nested structure. Each field could further contain another, JSON and so on. It's a nested thing, unlike hash models, right? Once that's done, we've got our employee over here. We're not going to be revisiting this block of code, right? So right now I'm going to create another Python script to upload my employees. Here really there's nothing fancy going on. I'm just going to be reading them from the CSV and writing them on the database. So this is a one-time operation, by the way. So I'm going to import the model or the class that I had from employee, and I'm going to import as well. Very useful thing. We've got the migrator here, which is super useful. This will allow us to create a Redis search index after writing it to the database. So first, let's write it to the database. We're going to open our employee.csv file as CSV file. And we're going to read all the employees as such using csv.dictionaryreader, passing it the CSV file path. Then we're going to loop over all our employees. So for employee and employees as such, we're going to get each employee as such, and we're going to save it to the database, and voila, we're done. But as a debugging message, I'm going to introduce a message over here saying, this employee with this first name has primary key equal to, this primary key is generated thanks to Redis OM, and it's the field.pk standing for primary key. Okay, once that's done, okay, I'm going to run migrator.run as such. So once all this is done, you go back to your virtual environment and you run python upload employee. And I've got a printf here because I don't know why I'm coding in C. So I think it's an fprintf or printf. I forgot. So print, not fprintf or whatever. So again, upload. There you go. All of our entries that were in our CSV file, all of those have been written onto the database. To make sure, go back to Redis Insight. There you go. Each and every one of those has a primary key that is randomly generated by Redis OM. We've got Bruce Wayne with a salary of 89,000. We've got Ahmad Malik with a salary of 98,000. We've got Tony Remo with a salary of 57,000 in the marketing department and is not an admin. We've got Ahmed Bazi with a salary of 54,000, support department and is not an admin, and so on. Now, one important note here is that you can also connect to your Redis cloud by configuring the proper
environment path called Redis OM URL. So to do that, you have to run export Redis OM URL, and here's where you specify the endpoints and credentials. So you go Redis // you pass the username and password, which for admin credentials you need default as username, and password you go ahead here and get it. This is what I have, so copy, paste, and then you specify @ and your public endpoint, which is this guy right here. So click copy and paste. And there you go. You run this command, you repeat the upload employee Python script, and the data will be uploaded to the Redis cloud. Next, now we've got everything we need. We've got the Docker up and running. We've got all our entries on the Redis database itself. Right now is the time to start querying and searching our database. So for that, go ahead and create a Python script that we will, include all the searching functionalities right over here. No place else, right over here. And we're going to be testing them one by one, okay? So we're going to be using mainly RediSearch, okay? And some Redis OM methods. So for that, first let's import employee. So from employee, import employee, right? We need that class. And we need, for now that's what I need, okay? If I need more modules, I'll go back here and I'll include them. Right, so let's start by the simplest querying function. That is, let's say first of all, what I want to do is find entries by first name. Okay, so to find an entry by first name, super easy. Let's create a function, call it find by first name as such. And really, we're going to return the employee dot. We're going to pass it. This is very simple to execute, by the way. We're going to find the employee first name that corresponds to the name I'm looking for. So let's say I'm looking for the name Ahmad as such. There you go, that's it. And I want to return all the hits. So this guy returns me the records. So if I run this function, Python 3, queries, I don't see anything because I didn't print it. So let's say I want to print this guy. There you go. These are all the employees with first name Ahmad. We've got Ahmad Bazzi and we've got Ahmad Malik. So we've got two records, but for proper printing, I'm going to introduce a function right here, call it show results as such. And all this function does is I'm going to pass it the results, and I'm going to loop over those results. So for employee and results, print employee, like this, and print an empty line. So instead of print here, I'll pass show results. This is better. So right here we've got two hits, Ahmad Bazzi and Ahmad Malik. Okay. Now another way to do this is the Redis OM way, which is as we saw, one line of code. Another way to do this is through Redis search functionality. So because we're going to be using Redis search mainly for aggregation and filtering. Okay. I'm going to introduce it here as well as a second method so that you get your hands on Redis search to prepare ourselves for aggregation functionality. So find by first name, and I'll put RS as in Redis search. We need a client. We need a Redis client as input, and that client is going to, we don't have the auto completion feature right here, so I can't, I don't know if it's me, but if there's no auto completion feature on certain fields, I find it a bit exhaustive to work. As you can see, cloud.dot doesn't return anything. So let's first define client. Okay, we're going to do that once, right? So define initialize client as such, and right here we're going to return our client. Well, client should be indexed, of course, as such. My index. This is the secondary index that we're going to be using to perform all Redis search queries and searching, right? Okay, next thing what you'd want to do is, and as you can see over here, client is not defined. So for that, we have to import it from Redis search. So from that guy, import client, right? See why I love VS Code? I just love it. It warns you on stuff that haven't been defined and stuff. I find that amazing. Right, so now I've got my client, but I've got to tell this client, I have to inform it about the schema
that I'm using, and that's super important, okay?
Because you could be, you could be interested in one field,
Let's say the first name,
or you can be interested in multiple
fields, first name and last name, or even all the fields, first name, last name, salary, department, and is admin. Right, you have the flexibility to do this. So for that, let me find a schema as such, and we have to specify, whether text field or numeric field. So if I go back to employees, not this one, the py file, we've got string, 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 and usually strings are what? Text fields. So text field is also going to be imported from Redis Search, right? And right here I'm going to specify text field for the first name. Okay, this is what I'm interested in. I'm also interested in the last name, and the salary is not a text field, it's a numeric field. So we'll include a numeric field over here, numeric field for the salary, text field for the department, and a numeric field for the is admin. Okay, so this is my schema that I'm going to be using, and I have to tell the client that, okay, I'm using this schema. So for that, we go ahead and, create index with the schema. Another important factor is the definition. So the definition right here is how are we going to enter the schema, right? Going back to our database, you can see that each and every one of them start with employee.employee as such. And that's going to be our definition, because that's the, let's look at it that way. It's the common part. It's the part that is shared among all my hashes. Each hashes are unique up to this point, okay? So this guy, let me highlight it. This guy is what I'm going to be copy pasting. Okay, go ahead and get this. Go back here, create our definition as such, index definition, right? And specify the prefix that we just mentioned. Okay, and then pass the definition right here. Okay. So now we have created our client, but there's something still missing. And what is it? It's when I re-enter again this function. Because, I'm going to execute this once every time I run this query method. So I do client.initialize client as such. But if I repass this, I'm creating a same index, and that might throw an error right here. I'm creating an index twice, and that's not allowed. Can't create an index twice. Either at each time you enter, you change the index, or you do a try except block over here. So if our client actually has some info, that's good. And if not, means that if there's a response error from Redis, means that we don't have this index. So go ahead and create it. Okay, so now I've got my client, which I could use for Redis Search right here. And so if you were to use Redis Search, so you'd get a response by performing a client.search, and you pass it what you're looking for. So you have to indicate the name of the field, which is first name, and pass it what you're looking for, so Ahmad as such. And finally, print your result. Okay, now this is the Redis OM way. Let me put it here, the Redis search way as such, and pass it the client. Okay, let me run the same guy now. And as you can see, we've got two total documents, same thing, Ahmed Bazi and Ahmad Malik. Now for proper printing, what I'm going to do is here, look, you've got two total documents, so documents. So we're going to loop over, let's write docs. Let me do 0. Check if this is an array. Yes, indeed. And let me do 1. Okay. Okay, good. So I'm going to loop over then for r in res.docs print r. Clear this. There you go. So this is the Redis search way. Okay. Good. So this is how you perform searches based on one text field. Another thing you can do is which comes really in handy when you want to implement auto completion features in your app. Let's say you want to, perform something close to regex expressions, right? In database terms, you call this wildcard or asterisk type searches. So find entries using wildcard search. Let's do that the Redis search way. So defined by wildcard first name. Pass it to the client, and here. So I'm going to copy paste this, really. Let's say I'm interested in all the people that start with AH as such. This should return me, I'm going to copy the printing part. This should return me all employees that have first names starting with AA. Let's run this. Find by wildcard first name. Let me run this. And there you go. We've got 2 employees. Let's say BR. Yeah, we've got Bruce Wayne and we've got Bruno Mars. So Bruce and Bruno both start with BR, and this is how you get it done. Simple as that, 1 line of code. BR, this is really useful for auto completion features. Now let's say you want to search in multiple fields, okay? Find, let's say, entries by first and last name. You want to search for a complete name. So in that, you'd want to use both the first and last name. It's really simple, really simple. Find by first and last name. I want to return for the employee. I'll go find employee.first name is Ahmad, for example, and I want his last name to be Bazi. Okay, and I want all such employees, and that's it. So right now we could show results of find by first and last name. Okay, let's run. There you go, 1 hit. Okay, this is how you get the job done. Good. So now let's say I want to, sort in some order, whether ascending or descending order of salary. Sort in ascending or descending order of salary. So first let's do the Redis OM way. So def sort by salary. Okay. Let's return all employees. Let's find all employees first with a positive salary, basically all employees, right? And then let's sort by salary, as simple as that. Finally, let's show the results of this query, right? Let me clear and then Python. And there you go. You've got me with the lowest salary, 54,000, then 57,000, 66,000, 85,000, 89,000, up to 100,000. Okay, so this is in the Redis OM way in ascending order. Let's do in ascending order the Redis search way. Okay, so sort by salary, RS, Redis search, and I'm going to do this using aggregation, right? So let me go back up, and from Redis search aggregation, we're going to import aggregate request as such. So what aggregates are is that you group your different users or employees using some criterion or criteria that you define. So request is pass aggregate request, and let's group by, let's say, salary, right? And right here you have to pass another important feature, that is reducers. So reducers, it defines another grouping by criteria. So let's say you want to count the number of users that have this type of salary. Okay, so let's first do a group by, okay, and then let's get the result by launching client.aggregate and passing it the request. Finally, I'm going to print all my results, so the different rows, different groups that we aggregated, and then calling the function as such. Reducers is not defined. So for that, we're going to go back up here to the modules, and from Redis search, we will import reducers. Launch again, and there you go. As you can see, they're not sorted. For now, they're not sorted. To sort them properly, you pass sort by salary, run it again, and there you go, 54,000, 57,000, up to 100,000. And as you can see here, you've got this weird name called generated alias count. So if you want to have control of this field, I think it's over here where you pass a certain alias, and let's say you want to name it count. Okay, run this again, and there you go. This generated alias count is replaced by count. What this is telling us is that, okay, here's my salaries in ascending order. They're grouped into, based on salary. So we've got 2 employees with the salary 57,000, 4 with the salary 89,000, 2 with 90,000, 2 with 95,000, and so on. If you want them in descending order, that's super important. You have to import from the aggregation DESC, which is descending. You've also got ascending, which is the default. But descending is by descending order, DESC. And it's over here where you specify DESC. Means you want the salaries in descending order. Launch again, and there you go, in descending order. Now let's say you want to be more, you want this group by using different attributes. So let's say you want first name as well, right? Run this, and there you go. So we've got one employee which has the first name David and has the salary 100,000. We've got one employee with the name Ahmed with the salary 98,000. You've got one employee tail and so on. Okay? And as you can see, not all the employees are showing, right? We've only got up to 89,000. So what's going on? Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We've got 10 employees, whereas we've got more, no? So for that, you have to tell Redis the limit. Let's say I want to limit up to 100 employees, right? There you go. I've got all my employees up to Ahmed with the salary 54,000. Okay? This is, by the way, the equivalent. You could see it as the equivalent of Panda's head function. So the head shows you the first 5. For example, head, you pass it 10. It shows you the first 10 hits. And then you could control this using this parameter. Okay, good. Let's now take a deeper look into this aggregate or group by function. Let's say I want to group my employees into different departments. I've got 3 departments so far, right? I've got the sales, I've got the support, and I've got the market. Well, super easy. Let's open a function, call it group into different departments, and let's launch a request as we did previously, passing it the aggregate request and calling the group by function. Right here we pass the fields we want to group by accordingly. So let's say group by department, as we said, and we want to count. Let's say we want to count the number of employees in that particular department. So count as such. This is my aggregate request. Now it's time to send it to Redis. So we'll call client.aggregate, passing it the request as such. And I'll save this in a result so that I could show it to you guys. So for r in result, print r. Actually, it's result.rows as such. Okay, let me call this function like this and run. There you go. We've got 3 departments: support, marketing, and sales. 5, 6, and 4. So we've got 5 employees in support, 6 in marketing, and 4 in sales. Again, let's say we want to change the name of this. Here's where you do it. You pass .alias and you say count. There you go. Okay. Now let's say I want to repeat this, group into different departments, but only those that are admins, right? I just want to, see how many admins I've got in each department, right? So basically it's the same thing, right? I'll copy paste this right here and close this. So this is the same thing as what we just did, but I want only those that are admins, right? So for that, we're going to, include another field over here, which is admin, and I'm going to use the filter function right after. So I'm going to filter those users that have the r_admin, so with isAdmin equal to 1, okay? Let me change the name of the function because it's the same as the previous one. Now let me call it, and there you go. We've got one user that is an admin in the sales department. Let me show you where he or she is. So in the sales department, we've got only this user, Bruce Wayne, who is an admin. Okay, so 1. In the marketing department, seems we've got 2 users. There they are, Ahmed Malik and Taylor Swift. And lastly, in the support department, we've got also 2 users, Helena Klein and Dexter Morgan. Now, let's say I want to aggregate all salaries of all my employees. Okay, let's say I want to do that. I want to check, okay, how many employees did we define a function, call it aggregate by salary. Again, we're going to open a request, which is an aggregate request, and we're going to group by the salary field. Okay, we're going to pass the reducers. So reducers dot count. I'm going to count how many we have. Pass it the alias as well, which is count. And we're going to send this request to the client. We're going to pass this request to the client, and finally we're going to print all the results we have. Finally, let me call this function. Group by, got unexpected. Where's this? Reducers. So what is wrong here? Oh, my bad, sorry. This guy should be a request. And there you go. This is how we aggregate salaries of all employees. We've got one employee with a salary 54,000, one with a salary 85,000, two with 95,000, and so on. Okay. Now, let's say we want to have a more sophisticated query. That is, we want to count those users with a salary greater than, say, $75,000. Now, of course, I can do this, off of Python functionality, right? I could, in this loop, I could access this field and check if its corresponding salary is greater than 75,000, and then, add accordingly. But that's not how we're going to get stuff done, because this is a backend, and in backend stuff work quite different. We want stuff to be as fast as possible. So this should be achieved using Redis querying functionalities, which is optimized to have super fast performances. So for that, we're going to count employees with salary greater than 75K. Okay. As we did, we're going to open a request, aggregate request, and we're going to group by, as we just did, the salary first of all. So we want this in the beginning. Okay, we want this. Then reducers dot count dot alias. So up to this point, the request should return me this table right here. This, what you see over here. But then now we have to do some additional grouping by, right? So that we have how many salaries are more than 75,000. So first I'm going to filter those salaries that are greater than 75,000, okay? Then I'm going to group by. So at this point, if I do this, what do I get? If I want to see the result, right? If I want to see the result, let me launch this function. If I want to see the result, this is what I get. I get this, but only the salaries that are greater than 75,000. But that's not what I want. I want the sum of those, right? So to get this, super easy. All you have to do is group by, and you call reducers dot. Reducers has a lot of functionalities. You've got count, you've got max, you've got min, you've got first value, quantile, random, so forth, standard deviation. We need the sum. That's what we're looking for. So sum on which field? On the count, and give it an alias. So total number of employees with salary greater than 75K. Okay, and that's it. So there you go. What we're going to have is, of course, one field where it's 11. 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 1 is 4, 5 plus 4, 9 plus 2, 11. Okay, so that's how you count. Okay, now let's do something fun, and let's work with tags, which are similar to hashtags. So imagine over here, each employee has some tags attached to him or her. So let's say I want to create 2 tags. You can create multiple tags, 3, 4, as much as you could think of. But let's say for simplicity, I'm going to attach 2 tags to each employee. 1, the country they're living in, and 2, the department. I'm not going to, upload again to the database that I have over here. Instead, I'm going to do that manually. So I'm going to pass by, I know it's a bit exhaustive, but bear with me. Instead, I'm going to pass by each employee and enter a tag field like this. So let's say Kevin Colbert is in the US and is in sales. Okay, save. There you go. This also gives you an opportunity to see how you could add fields using Redis Insight. Do the same thing for Helena's client. So tag UK and support. Save. Go here, add tag. Taylor Swift is in marketing, and last but not least, we've got Bruno Mars, who's in the US and on the support team. Okay, so now we've got those tags, right? And we go back here to our code. so that we perform tag searches, it has to be part of our schema. Again, the schema defines the fields that we're allowed to perform searches on, right? So for that, we're going to have to include a new tag, a new field, and it's not going to be a text field, of course, because it's a tag, and it's not going to be a numeric field because it's not numeric, it's a tag. So we're going to have to import from RediSearch an additional field called tag field, okay? Tag field as such. And right here, we will include tag field as such and pass it tag, right? So tag field as such, okay? And now we're ready to perform some tag searches. Let me show you how this is easily done on Redis Search. So let's define a function called filter by tags. And we're going to call client.search. So let's say you want all the tags that contain US. This is how you do it. That's one tag search, a simple tag search. So let's print them all for r in res.docs, print r, and finally call the function. Let me comment the previous function out and run. Print r is not defined. I forgot parentheses, sorry about that. Print r. Okay. There you go. All those employees have the tag US. Here we've got US marketing. Here we've got marketing US. Comma is what, separates different tags. Okay. So if you want 3 tags, you add a comma, you add a third tag, and so on. Okay. So this is a simple tag search. And what about multiple tag searches? What about if you want 2 tags? You want the intersection. Let's say you want those that are US and marketing. It's as simple as that. You go ahead and pass again US and marketing as such. Let me clear, run, and there you go. All those employees are both marketing and US, as you can see. Marketing US, marketing US, marketing US. There you go, marketing US. Now let's say you want marketing or US as such. Marketing or US. This is how you do it. Clear. There you go. This guy is US support. Support US, contains US. This guy is US marketing. This guy is so on. So this is and or, if you will. Union and intersection, right? Good. Right, so another awesome feature given to us by Redis is the ability of performing geolocation searches. And I find that awesome, to be honest. Imagine that you've got a database where each of your users are updating their location on a regular basis, right? And you would like to find out those users that lie within a certain radius within yourself. You can do this easily with one line of code. It's as simple as that. But before, we need to include the location within our schema. That's super important. It's not a text, it's not numeric, and it's definitely not a tag field. So what is it? Well, Redis Search provides us with an additional field, that is the geo field. And as you can see, it is used to define a geo-indexing field in a schema definition. So once I add that, I'll add this as I did with the tag field, geo field as such, pass it location as such, and that's how my schema should look like. Now I'm not going to update my CSV file then upload the entries as I did with the tag. I'm going to hop on over Redis Insight and I'm going to add them manually as such. Make sure that your location indicates 2 numbers, one for latitude and the other for longitude, separated by a comma. So let's say 2, 3, and so on. I'll do this manually and I'll get right back. And the last user on location, let's say 49, latitude, longitude, okay? Going back here, so we're going to create a new function to search by geolocation, okay? Call it filter by location, as such. And we're going to open a response that is client.search, so we're using Redis Search, and we'll pass it the location as such. Okay, so here the parameters are very important. First, I pass latitude and longitude coordinates, which are my coordinates, right? So it's the point that I'm searching with respect to. Let's say the center of the circle is latitude, longitude 11, and I'm interested in those employees or users that lie within, let's say, 10 miles within myself. Okay, let's print all those users as we did previously, and let's launch this function. Well, currently there's no one. Let me increase the size of this radius. There you go. Here's all the users within this radius, right? And let's say I'm interested with only those users that lie in the sales department. So I can do this department sales, and voila, there you go. So yeah, this is basically it. This is all the Redis search features that I have to present in this video. Thanks for watching. If you found this lecture beneficial, please leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions whatsoever, kindly leave a comment down in the comment section below. I'll make sure I'll get to it as soon as possible.